Hey, this is
At this time, I just want to welcome our Spreaker audience here tonight. Sorry for signing you guys in late. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to repeat the topic. A friend in need is a friend indeed. As long as there's no money or
that's right,
or business involved. So let's continue on. I'll give you another story that I've had. I've had a lot of stories with friends that I've used.
You must have lost a lot of friends along the way, haven't you?
I'll give you another example. I had a friend who was in disability for a long time, and I finally asked him, I says, would you like to do a little work? He said, I'd love to. He says, nobody will hire me. So I says, no problem. I'll find somebody that hires you. So I'll find somebody that hires you. I'll bring you to where I used to a job that I'm on now. We're looking for somebody, and we don't really need experience. And you can learn a new area, in the air freight. So he was hired by this company, and we worked together. I was his boss. Really wasn't too much of a trouble because I didn't get involved with what he did. Then after a while, I left that company involuntarily, even though I was not fired. And that time I started my own business. And after a while I was in my own business, he asked me if I would hire him. He wanted to work with me. So like a nice guy, I said, sure, no problem. And I brought him in. And everything was going along well until the company started going down a little bit and things were getting tough. So I asked all the employees to give back a small pay cut, maybe 10%, 15%. And everybody accepted it except for my friend. He got all mad at me and he quit. And then him and his wife were not our friends for many years because of that. We finally did get back together, but again, 13 other employees at the time all understood, all accepted the cut because they realized that it was just things weren't going that well. And the only one that was really a friend of mine said, "You crazy? I want a raise."
Well, it seems like he's cutting off his nose despite his face.
Yeah, so he quit. Didn't make any sense, and then he was back sitting in his couch. And that's the way he remained till he passed away. Never did anything after that again. So it's a sad story, but it's true. And and I felt bad, but I couldn't give everybody else pay cuts and make an exception for him. It wouldn't be right. It's not. You just can't.
Well,
do
not
that.
if you're trying to keep the business afloat. Everybody chips in a little.
Exactly.
Something is better than nothing.
Exactly, and he was getting paid quite well anyway. But that's besides the fact. Everybody took it, and he didn't, so he decided to quit. I felt bad, but there's nothing I can do. And as I said, we were not friends for a long time after that. So I'm a firm believer. If you have a friend you want to lose, hire him. Borrow some money. Start a business with him. Don't worry about it. He won't be a friend for long. It's a shame. I hate to say that, but as I said, I got a few other stories like that where wherever I was nice to somebody who worked for me, they almost always turned around and stabbed me in the back. So anyway, everybody says I was too nice to everybody. I guess I was. But c'est la vie. Life goes on. We go on. We move on, and that's the way it is. I'd like to hear from somebody. I see we have somebody in our chat room.
Oh, that says guest.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're not. If you just come in as a guest.
Oh, I thought that was his name, Guest.
Yeah, is this
Could be
Joe?
Edgar Guest.
Is this Joe Guest or John Guest?
Could be Edgar Guest,
Yeah.
The writer, I believe, Edward Guest.
Anyway, so
Edward Guest has logged in. Okay. Hello, Edgar. Nice to see you.
Yes.
But, maybe the person who just logged in, since you don't have to speak, all you have to do is type. Have you ever had a situation where you loaned a friend money and lived to regret it? Or maybe you had a positive, story to tell about that. Maybe for you things worked out fine.
I mean, I'm not saying it's always going to happen. I just say don't bet your money on it. That's not going to happen. I think the odds are in favor of something going wrong. Maybe not always as bad as my situation.
Well, it's if you're either loaning them money, or if you invite them to your house to stay for a while and then they forget to leave. That's another thing. Guests who never leave.
Oh, I've had that also.
You try to be nice and friendly. Somebody's down and out, or they don't have someplace, and it's somebody that you've known for a while. So you say, sure, you could stay a few days, and a few days becomes a few months, and it becomes 6 months.
A year?
And it's almost like I remember my parents asking me when I got divorced. My dad and mom said, listen, just tell us if you're going to be home, so we know, first of all, if we should prepare any dinner for you. And I generally said no. Or, should we wait up for you? Because the most unnerving thing is when you hear the door open at 4 a.m. and you weren't expecting anybody.
Yeah, that's true. But I had also an experience. I don't know if you said
I could almost wonder who you're talking about.
Probably the same guy that lent me money. But anyway, this friend of mine stayed in my house for a couple of years, I would say, except for a few months off. He had his own room, and if anybody went into this room or slept in it, he'd get upset. And I tell him, it's not your room. You don't live here. He had all the closets were full of his clothes. He had everything there, and very strange. And then a few years later, when I mentioned to him that he used to live with me, he said, I never spent more than a day or two in your house.
Well, that's true. His clothes, however, were living in your closets.
Yeah, all his belongings were living in my closet. I mean, there was no room for anything in that closet. And he had his own bathroom down there.
So when can I move in?
Unfortunately, I don't live there anymore, but I do have an extra room here. Then we have another story about...
No, I heard what happened to the other person. I don't know if I want that to happen to me.
Oh, wait a second. We've got a caller.
No.
Yeah, early.
An early caller.
We have an early caller today. Is this Dapper Dan?
Dapper Dan, you got him.
And how do I sound tonight, Dapper Dan?
I wish I'm just trying to figure out how to hear you guys better. I don't think you guys sound fine when I listen to the show. But now you're so far away, you guys.
It's probably your phone more than anything else.
Yeah, if you can say something like that, it's probably your phone, because if you heard us fine...
You guys are coming out crystal clear. I listened to you on my phone, but then when I called in, all of you guys got so quiet. But you guys sound good, though, man. They sound clear, just to give you guys a little audio.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Once in a while, it's nice.
Dan, let's get your opinion.
Just trying to get you guys louder.
Let's get your opinion, Dan. We the topic generally is a friend in need is a friend indeed, but don't loan them money or go into business with them. Okay, have you ever had any examples where either you loaned somebody money?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I can give you many of them. I don't want to talk the show, but man, I got many things that were, damaging.
Well, we're all ears, so feel free to explain all these examples to us and to our listening audience and to our mysterious guest.
Okay. I had when I had my own shipping company called Globex. That was some years ago. I had a really strong worker, and helped me out through and through, and track shipments down and book shipments, and really strong, on time every day. So she wasn't rich or anything, and her car really broke down. And more was seized at the job. So she was crying and crying and crying. Now, out of my good heart, I went to go buy her a Hyundai.
You bought her a Hyundai?
The best gift I can give somebody. And I put it under my name. When I say paid for, I didn't take cash. I put whatever, $2,000 down or whatever it was, $3,000. I had the credit, and she helped me out so much. I wanted to show back the appreciation. So what did she do? She found a guy, and they took the car off to Ohio and never made a payment. Never made one payment. And I had to pay off the car because it was destroying my credit. And I couldn't believe I got the phone call there with some whatever Hyundai Financial, whatever it was, saying, no payment was. I'm like, I know. She took off my car. Like, why don't you call the police? I'm like, I'm not going to call the police.
Well, that's
one of my stories, that she took off with my car, and I never saw her again. I mean,
well,
I felt bad for her when her car broke down.
Well, that's,
she helped me out so much, and it was horrible.
Well, but that sounds to me like she, the Cool Hand Luke, what we have here is a failure to communicate. All she managed to hear was you were buying a car and giving it to her. Okay, I don't think she understood the stipulations were that you'll put the down payment down and she will make, the payments on the car.
I was making the payments off there. This is a weird situation. I was making the payments, and I really didn't care because it was coming out of the company. I didn't really care. And it was a cheap, let me say Hyundai. It was cheap. What it was like, $199 a month. I mean, I got the cheapest one just because I wanted to have a car because I needed her in the office.
No.
And she was a nice person and all. And I guess she found the guy, and they just took off. They didn't say anything.
So they took off in your car. Yeah. That was registered to you?
My car. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it to this day when you're trying to be a friend of somebody. Because she was a friend of me too. She helped me out with the business. She really did. But I don't know what happened to her. I think she was on drugs, to be honest with you. I don't know her. I didn't know her that well. I didn't know what type of person she was.
But let me ask you, whose car was it registered under? Whose name?
It's his name.
Me. Mine. It was my name, my insurance.
That's why they came after him.
I told my wife was kicking in the ass so bad that she's like, I can't believe that used like that. I said, because she knew the person too, stood over my house, and I don't, like you're saying, we're like, I'll wait till before I keep going. Can I stay over your house for a while?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it got ugly with my wife. She just kicked me every day for saying, you're so dumb, you're so dumb for doing that for her. And I said, oh, look, I needed her. She knew it. My wife knew I needed her in the office. Well, but it was just, I just can't believe it happened to me.
I really think a situation like that, you got to call the police. Because
Well,
what
I
happens?
told
What happens
Grocery.
if they get into an accident in Ohio?
But there's nothing written.
Right.
In other words, everything was oral. So the
Yeah, but the car that was
Yeah,
Dave's
well,
name, so it's his car.
no kidding. So what I'm saying, but
Yeah,
what I'm
it was,
saying
it was
is,
all verbal. It was. I just got it.
She-
I paid it
she-
through the company. It was under my business, but not under the company. Under my name.
she
My
could say,
insurance.
say he gave me the car.
Nope.
What do you mean
Right.
no?
No,
It's
she
not. It's
right.
under his name.
Right,
She cannot give it. He cannot.
You
if he's
can
going to
give
give
the
it,
car
she
as
can
long as the
definitely say,
payments.
if I call the cops, she say,
The
"Look,
company
she gave me
doesn't
a car."
care who's making the
Nothing-
payments. As long as the payments are being
I
made.
know, but if it's under his registration, it's his insurance. It's not her car. It can't be her car.
Even if he gives it to her.
He can't. If he gives to her, he's got to give her the title, and that's what giving her is. It's not
Oh,
just
no, I
saying,
had
"Oh,
the
borrow my
title.
car for a day." Can't be done.
You know, at the point I didn't care anymore because like, at that time, after I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe she left. I don't know. I don't know. I think she had drugs. I really do. She was a really nice worker, a nice person. I thought. So, who buys someone a car, a coworker a car, and they take off with it without saying goodbye? Jesus. The truth is, and I laugh about it now, but luckily I have the money to support that big problem. But I just couldn't believe it. Not to mention, I was more in pain is I had to find someone to replace her.
Yeah, but Dan,
So,
you could really use that Hyundai now.
well, right. Well, that's all funny thing too, right? But I also bought the car thinking use it for business, get tax papers. You also know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I used the car for that reason too. We just use it also. She just took it home at night after work, and I used to be using the car during the day to fetch papers or whatnot. So it's kind of a business call at the same time. She just ran off with the car.
So who's paying
I
for the
called
registration?
police. I'm like, yeah, like you're saying, it was all verbal. Nothing was set in stone. That it's my car, it's a company car.
It's your car. You bought it. It's you bought it.
This
That's the
happened
end
to
of
me
it.
easier too. So I mean, this is like I'm talking like 15 years ago.
So what happened?
It's a
Who
long
was-
time. That's just one
yeah.
of
So what happened?
like
Did you
15 years
renew the
ago,
registration?
So, it's not like.
Yeah. Did you renew the
Not that
registration
I
for
forget
them
about it,
every
that's
2
something that always
years?
hits you because it's like, wow, you try
He
to
doesn't hear you.
help somebody. And then, another story, if you guys want to interject with one of your stories, but the other one was when I was working at Ultimate Express. This black lady, and very nice. I mean, she always very friendly, and she one day came up to me and said, "Can I borrow $100?" I said, yeah, you're right. So, yeah, no, about back my bills and da-da-da. I said, okay. And then she gave me back, like, whatever, like a month later, but I didn't really care about $100. So then she gave me back. Then she asked me for, I think, $400. And I never saw it. Now, I remember one month went by. And then she walks by my desk and slips me a note. I need to borrow $2,000. And I didn't do it. I said, don't waste your $2,000. And you know what? I never saw my $400 because she quit the job and left.
Well,
I never saw the $400 again.
that's part of a scam. Usually they borrow $50, $100, $200, and they make sure to pay you back because they want to remain in good standing with you. And then they hit you up for a substantial amount of money, whatever it is.
Right, that's what she did. They worked
Right.
their way up.
Right. And that's
And
when they
I
just
said
skip.
She got Right, it was a scam. No, personal life, I don't know. I really don't.
You know,
I don't know what happened. No,
Dan,
those are my
Dan.
two stories. I probably have more if I think of them, but those are my two.
Dan, don't get angry.
What's your favorite story, Dr. Marc?
Dan, don't get angry, but P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute. I think they made clones of you. I think they made clones of you.
Well, I didn't do so bad myself.
That's true. That's true. I have to honestly say I never had a business. I was never in, the financial type of situation where I'd be able to loan somebody money. But I've never done anything like that. I mean, if I borrowed money, I paid it back right away. I worked out something with a friend, and I paid him back a certain amount every month until my loan was paid back.
Which is great, but you didn't run into a problem where he said you didn't pay him back, though.
No, we've been friends for a lifetime, okay, and there's no way I would screw this friend. So the bottom line was, I knew that, he had it. It's like the song, you work hard for your money. He worked very hard for his money. And, sometimes it's easier to go to a friend than it is to go to a relative. Relatives always say no. Invariably, relatives always say no. But a friend will try to help out when they can. And the bottom line is, look, he was very nice. He helped me out of a real tight situation at the time. And I made sure every payday, in fact, he reminded me. He was like my alarm clock. As soon as I got home from work, or the day before, he'd call me and say, tomorrow's payday. I said, I know, don't worry. I'm going to put it in an envelope and bring it over,
Did he charge you interest?
No, but he could have, I'll tell you. Because he took it out of an interest-bearing account at it was a high interest. So whatever he gave me, he was losing a decent amount of money on, and he never even charged me for that.
Well, I told you the difference was my friend was charging me a very high interest rate besides.
A Shylock.
Yeah. Close to
it. I just got to say that there's people like that too. We should not call friends.
Well, before you called up,
I do have a different story, though.
Felix was telling a story. Felix was telling a story about that. He happened to say that he'd rather borrow money from a loan shark, and I said to him, well, he'll break your legs, because he won't. One thing you could be sure of, he's not going to kill you because you can't collect money from a stone, from a dead man,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really do have a good friend story for your show tonight. Felix actually knows the person too, but I don't want to say his name on the air because I start talking about him.
Well, you don't have to.
One of our drivers. I tell you something. I'm like a surprising friend that I know of at least 12 years. I'm not a childhood friend, but I tell you, I came through for him when he was, broke and stuff, and I asked to borrow money, and you know what? He paid me back. If he didn't pay me back cash, he paid me back in his trucking services, which he didn't charge me anything for. So, and then he just actually popped by my room this morning, just to say hi. How you doing?
You know what his name of the trucking friend? You know what the name of the trucking is?
Yeah, he got by with a truck, and that's a real friend.
The name of the trucking is Charity Trucking.
It works both ways. He has cash sometimes, and he pays me back most of the time. If not, it doesn't matter. I used him too. I used him for his truck when I needed it for personal reasons.
And here I thought it was Vanilla's funeral home. The hearse is considered like a truck.
Yeah.
Right?
Nope, it's called Charity Trucking.
Yeah.
CT, huh? Charity Trucking.
CC,
yeah.
like
he's an awesome guy. It's a friend, the friend that kind of hurts me about my other friends who just call me up and say, hey, where are we going out tonight? What are we doing tonight? That's not the type of friend I need. My trucker friend, I can't believe he just showed up this morning and just sat down and had some water, watched some TV with me, and just making sure I was okay.
That's nice of him.
My other friends, no. Where are we going tonight? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm fucking dying here inside, and they just want to know where we're going to go party. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm doing. Like, well, where are we going tonight? One time I should pick you up. Where we going? Oh, so I can go pay for your drink? So I can go pay for dinner?
Yeah, really.
It's ridiculous. I'm so disappointed in them.
Well, when you speak about paying for dinner, I think we should schedule another rock and roll stop. That wasn't expensive.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
That wasn't expensive.
Yeah, we should.
I know. Marc only likes the lunch schedule.
Yeah, I like the lunch menu. You know, for $10.99. If you don't go crazy, you don't have any drinks. You know, you can order a few dishes, and you know it's just going to be $11 plus tax per person.
And you also know the food is good. Well, then those I've been bugging.
Where is that place, number one, Mark?
What was that?
What'd you say?
Where is that place? Where is that place for that price?
We went there, walk and roll.
We went with your dad, don't you remember?
Yeah, of course. I thought you were describing another restaurant.
No.
No.
That's what I thought you did. You understand? I really can hardly hear you guys with these damn headphones, so I don't know what that's wrong. But, no, I thought you were referring to another restaurant.
No, we're talking about walk and roll.
Walk and roll, exactly. Walk and roll.
I heard you say that, but anyway.
But then...
You know, they should pay for advertising.
You know what's funny thing? You can meet people, as talking on the offend topic, you can meet
Well, hold on, I got another call. Hold on, let's see who this is.
What's 111111?
Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, it's my number, all ones. I'm reading a description page, and I just got into the show. But the description page is pretty much on the money. I think it's a pretty sad revelation of people.
Isn't it?
You have a friend. Huh?
Yeah. I'm saying, isn't it? It's true.
I can't hear you. Yeah, what I was about to say was that it seems to be a pretty sad revelation of people. If you have a friend for years, but if you give him $20, he's no longer a friend, then that person probably was never a friend to begin with.
It's true.
Yeah.
You know, you try to do the right thing by people, and sometimes they take advantage. I'm not saying all the time. I mean, let's face it, there are people who remember and pay you back. And then on the other hand, then you have something like what happened to Dan, where a person borrowed money, paid him back, borrowed it again, and, you know, it's a scam. And then they work their way up to more money, and then they just split.
Oh, how about the... I don't know if you listened to the show at all, but our other caller was on Dan. You still there, Dan?
No,
Dan? Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he was talking about he gave somebody a car to use for work, and one day they just drove off with it to Hawaii. Ohio. Never came back.
The person. Well, Dan, why don't you enlighten our listener as to what happened with that?
Well, before you do that, I already got the message. You already lent the car to somebody. Somebody saw that you were good enough friends, and they could probably take it across state lines.
Yeah.
And then they probably got pissed off if you called the police or if you made a big deal of it. So I got the gist of it, if that's what you're going to talk about.
No, he didn't call the police.
Have a solution.
He didn't call the police.
What's the solution?
The solution is this. If somebody, first off, make friends, you know, as much as possible. Friends are good if they're real friends. Now, in order to find out if somebody's going to be a real friend without losing your money, then you say to the person who comes to you, can I borrow $20? Because to me, even in today's inflationary times, $20 is a lot of money. So I'll say, hey, not a problem. What have you got for collateral that's worth $60?
Very good. Very good.
That's good. It's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like that.
Okay.
You know what I used to do when I was a teacher, and the kids would borrow a pen. All right, now borrowing a pen is not a big deal, but if you're a bank teller or a teacher or something along those lines, you know you spend a lot of money every year on pens that you never get back. So I'd ask the kids if I could borrow their lunch pass or their bus pass, and at the end of the period, you know, if they forget, well, they forget, but I usually track them down anyway because they need the bus pass or the lunch pass more than I need my pen back, you know. But the point is, it shows them responsibility, and that's what you're driving at.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that it's almost everybody is like that, you know.
That's true.
Almost everybody's like that.
I agree with you.
So I'm saying sad revelation about people in general, that you can't trust somebody who's your friend. You can actually trust more people who are strangers.
Exactly.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah, a
I
lot
can't
of
believe you
times.
just said that because I can't believe you just said that because it's true. I have a childhood friends who I don't trust, and I have people I just met. I mean, they're being so straight and so open honest. People I just met. Maybe it's good age. Maybe when you're kids and 20, when you're 20 years old,
Yeah, but
or 30 years old.
that doesn't excuse them from the potentially bad behavior either. My theory is that the reason why they act nicely is because it's a first-time encounter, and I think they may be trying to gain brownie points with God, or they're trying to make themselves look kind of humanitarian-like, self-aggrandizement. But, strangers will come to the aid of another stranger, but it's especially sad when you really can't trust your so-called friends.
Yes.
And you know what? Go ahead. Whoever wants to talk.
I was going to say, it's very true. People say that New Yorkers are very cold and callous, yet when you're down and out or something happens, and if it happens in New York, there's always a stranger right there who's willing to loan you the phone. If you need a few bucks, loan you a few bucks. Whatever the case may be, stay with you until the police come, help you out.
Yeah.
But I think that's like that anywhere.
Us New Yorkers have a bad rap, but unfortunately, like you're saying, it's not further from the truth.
But I think that's like that everywhere. People tend to help people when they're in distress.
Yeah, well, Mid-America is well known for that, and I think I've known transplanted New Yorkers when they've left New York and they've gone to another state. Once they've left their particular New York attitude behind them, that fight or flight type of mentality, they actually become pretty good neighbors because, oh my God, you mean I don't have to look around in the asphalt jungle around here? Oh my God. So they become pretty good neighbors.
Where are you out of?
Montana.
Oh boy.
Never been there.
Well, don't come here because I wanted to be without people.
Well, you like the wide open spaces. You like a couple of miles in between neighbors.
Well, not a couple of miles, but enough of a distance. I mean, well, you want to be near enough so that you can help each other out, but you want to be far away enough so that you don't get into each other's, personal stuff.
You know who? I'm sure you know. Tom Brokaw lives in Montana. That's his home state. Spends a lot of time there when he's.
I've never seen him.
That's because you guys are so far apart.
I think you should knock on his door.
Montana's a great state, so,
I'm sure it is.
Hey, listen, for somebody who loves the wide open spaces, hey.
I actually I like wide open space. I'd like to get 50 acres and not have anybody near me.
Politics?
Sure we do.
Oh, because I was going to dovetail from the wide open spaces into, the wide open spaces aren't getting so wide anymore. They're shrinking because of immigration. So I don't know if that's one of your topics.
Well, you know something? Everybody is entitled to their opinion. Whether we agree with you, you agree with us. The bottom line is, as long as it spurs conversation and we're civil enough to listen to somebody's argument, that's all. That's what it's about. That's what we like to do on this show.
Well, I think immigration's got to be illegal. I don't agree with people just strolling across. There's got to be some control over it.
Well, I think I know where our listeners coming from. Right now, you have all these children that are being deposited, in Arizona or Texas, and what do you do with them? They don't have parents. The parents just drop them off because they want a better life for them.
Yeah, well, there's an agenda there. The agenda is to bring the parents across later.
Right.
There was an interview done with a parent who was with one of these child illegals, and she was told back. I think she came from Guatemala, one of these one of these Central American places, and she was told that her kids can get an education in America, and if they go there, they can stay. And I think the the same thing goes for adults, is what she was told. So of course, if you're going to be in a country where there's nothing but tin pot dictators, then you're going to try for a better life. But that doesn't excuse them, or the Congress, which is to me is the cause of all problems, for allowing that to happen. We as Americans just can't go to another country and say, you know what, I think I'm going to park my ass right over here, and thank you very much for allowing me to do that. You can't do it in most countries.
No, you're right. There's got to be some level of control. If there's, if kids have been living here all their lives, I can't see deporting them anymore.
Well, but all right, you're talking about two different things.
Yeah.
You're talking about children who were brought here as either infants or very young children by their parents. This is the only country they know.
Yeah.
Okay, they've gone to elementary, middle school, high school, and now they're being told that they live under a threat of being deported because they're illegals. Again, through no fault of their
Well,
own.
that's not really true. They're anchor babies, so they can stay here. That's the whole reason for even. Did you know that about 6 or 7 months ago there was the wife of one of the famous drug cartels from Mexico? She came over here specifically to have the baby. So now the baby's officially an American.
Right.
But she took herself and the baby back to Mexico. So apparently there's going to be some sort of plan in works for her to come over here and now claim some sort of immunity in case her husband gets killed or shot or arrested. It's this welfare state, the nanny state kind of mentality that Congress has that allows this kind of stuff to happen.
Well, I wasn't referring, when I said what I said, to anchor babies. I know what an anchor baby is. I'm talking about if an infant is brought here from Central or South America, not born here, but brought here, and this is the only country that they know, that's what I was referring to. But I know that there's a big problem with the anchor babies, as you just finished stating.
Yeah. There's also another thing. I don't know if you ever guys saw 60 Minutes, where in California, all these rich Chinese people bring their pregnant wives into the States, and they have these special homes that take care of them while they have a baby. The baby becomes a citizen, then they send them back to China.
Well, that's what he was referring to.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying...
But then they come back later on.
Yeah, but this is a big business with the Chinese. And what they,
the Chinese are buying up a lot of America. There's a lot of, what do they call them, free zones, or something else that goes before the word free, that refers to the Chinese actually carving out whole sections of America in order to have the Chinese come over here and populate that particular area. It's for commerce, and it's for the Chinese, I guess, starting up their own particular type of Chinese community in America. Well, this is what happens when you allow foreigners to have about $3 trillion worth of bonds.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad...
Well, when we talk about foreigners, I mean, you have to include the Saudis. Okay, Saudi Arabia owns quite a bit of this country.
Of course.
Yeah,
there is no logical or economical reason for any foreigner to have even a few $1 billion worth of bonds. But we've reached the plateau, which hasn't really plateaued out yet, I'm sure, of a few $1 trillion of all the foreigners owning bonds. So we owe foreigners, and why?
Well, you see, they have to have enough money to be able to tie up billions of dollars at a time. So for the 10 years or 15 years, whatever it is, that's like, a drop in the bucket to them. So they're not missing that money. And meanwhile, we're using their dollars.
Yeah,
I'm not blaming them for investing in bonds. I'm just saying I'm blaming Congress and the Federal Reserve for allowing this type of phenomenon to happen.
Yeah,
you don't really need to have bonds.
Yeah.
Huh?
I'm thinking about China. We own billions and billions of dollars.
We owe trillions.
Or trillions, yeah.
Trillions.
If
Over
they-
$2 trillion.
If they
to
ever
China
called,
alone.
if they ever call in the note, we'd be in serious trouble.
We couldn't pay it back.
But you know, if they called in on note, then they would be in serious trouble too.
Yeah, but how do we get a substance?
Well, they don't call in the note. I mean, if you're buying a bond for 10, 15 years, and you're getting interest either on a semi-annual or an annual basis. So if they wanted to dump the bonds, if they go to the market, and if they want to sell a $1 million bond for about $800,000, that's what they would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they don't call in the loan. It's not like we gave them a loan and they are, you know.
No,
they're the
no, but I'm
bank,
saying
and
if the
well,
Chinese
they're the
government,
bank. Yeah.
the Chinese government decides to dump a whole bunch of bonds on the market, they'll kill the bond
Even then, I think
market.
even then I think it'd be more of a publicity stunt by the press in order to rile up the American people. I don't think it would really do anything economically, practically, you know, to the economy. But what it would do, it would frighten people into either running to the banks or to dumping more of their bonds. But okay, you know, so you dump the bond, so somebody else buys it cheaply. I don't really see the problem in it.
No.
Outside of the perception, you know, like
Yeah.
when people had a bank run during the 30s, people, if all it takes is CNBC or CNN to have a couple of stories 2 or 3 nights in a row about how almost insolvent or how almost bankrupt the banking system is, you'd have thousands of people then becoming millions of people heading towards the bank, which would cause a bank run, which wouldn't be necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, because
so this-
banks are going bankrupt all the time.
it's like It's a Wonderful Life with the Bailey Savings and Loan. You know.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
With
true.
Jimmy Stewart, huh?
Yeah.
What do you
yeah.
think of our deficit?
Well, oh God. Well, I have to ask myself, if the deficit's a few $1 trillion and the America hasn't really gone into the toilet yet, and it could have a long, long time ago, then it's being propped up because of perception. You know, once again the newscasters start beating the drums on radio and TV, then all of a sudden everybody goes, "Oh my God, the sky is falling." Yeah. The major problem goes back to the Federal Reserve. There is no reason for our currency to be created by issuing bonds. Why can't it be created by just printing up the money the way it's supposed to be done in the Constitution?
Well, it devalues the money that you're printing.
I hear that argument, but if you're going to have bonds, you're devaluing the money anyway. You're printing it up, and now you're lending it out. So there's a double whammy there.
Yeah.
Either way, you're printing it up. You're right. Yeah.
All I know is from the time I was a kid, we've always had a deficit. We've never been able to, you know, it keeps growing, and it will continue to grow. And one generation passes it on to another generation. You know, I wonder if during Eisenhower's days in the 50s, if people were talking about the deficit, when maybe then it wasn't even $1 trillion.
Well, it was a few billion, I think, during Eisenhower's time, and then he issued a 91% income tax on the rich, which I don't think lasted that long. Yeah, well, yeah, the
When I
deficit
was-
is something, but it's
You know, when I was doing my 30 credits above my master's, I took it in anything but education. So I took an accounting class, and the teacher happened to say, you know, if I made $1 million, I'd be in a 90% tax bracket. This was back in the 80s. 80s? No, the late 70s. And he said, I could live back then. He said, I could live on $100,000. I don't mind giving Uncle Sam $900,000 or $850,000. You know, and he was saying this to a class of people. I think back then I was making $18,000 as a teacher. You know, I mean, I remember when I started teaching, my friends and I would say, boy, if we were making 20 grand, wow, that's a lot of money. because we started out making like $7,500. Well, the thing is, we eventually made $20,000, and we were living better when we were making $7,500.
Well, that's because the inflation rate, which the government doesn't really accurately report, is approximately 10% a year, at least for the last 10 years, according to my calculations. And they don't include in the CPI energy nor food prices.
Right.
Yeah, which is killing us.
So, yeah, you know, and so I mean, look, I'm anti-government because everything they do is a lie or it's incompetence. So
You call yourself a libertarian for the most part?
Yep.
But what happens, you know, when you need roads fixed, or if you need an international flight or a passport or something? I mean, don't you need government then?
Well, you need government for the more rudimentary types of activities, okay? But you don't need government for everything. I don't know how many hundreds of agencies plus agencies that duplicate one another exist.
That's
Okay.
quite a few.
That's very true, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
so
then when
much.
you take a look at the roads, that's in the Constitution for the government to take care of roads. But even then, in Pennsylvania, private companies do the roads. And you guys, some of you guys were saying you live in New York. Now I remember reading about this particular structure called, I think it's the George Washington Bridge.
Exactly.
Where it was built years ago. Yeah, it was built years ago, and it was built on taxpayer money, and no more taxes were supposed to be applied towards the bridge. It was over and done with. But now, what I read, something like a year ago, they're charging like $14 to go one way and $14 to come back to pay for a bridge that was already completed.
Okay, what did
So
no?
I mean,
it's
that's a ripoff.
it's $14, but that's round trip. So you pay one way, but you don't pay the other way. But still, I understand what you're saying. You know, it's like in New Jersey, they have on the thruway. Every town has a toll. Now, they were supposed to stop collecting these tolls years ago. All right, but they find that they need this money, and so you say, okay, but where is it going? Is it going to repair roads? No, it's not. It sort of reminds me of communism. You know, originally when Marx and Engels released their Communist Manifesto, and I can tell you're an intelligent man, they had the inner circle, and eventually they were going to turn over power to the proletariat. Well, what happens is that the inner circle doesn't want to give up the power. You know, they like having the power and calling the shots. So very few states, when these roads or these bridges are paid for, do they say, okay, now it's free. You know, because they've been collecting this revenue, so they want to continue collecting this revenue.
And then you've got states, in particular like Virginia, they're really good. You know, they say they're going to have tolls for 2 years, that's it. 2 years, they cut the tolls off. But I agree with you. You know, the first department we should get rid of is the IRS. They're just a waste of money.
Get rid of a lot.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Well,
Well,
they need, you know.
There's absolutely no need for them.
You know, I don't know if you're a fan at all, but I watch The Daily Show every day with Jon Stewart or The Colbert Report. And Jon Stewart happened to say, one thing I'll say about him, he's very fair-handed about poking fun at everybody, okay? And he was talking about the IRS, and they were talking about the gentleman who is now in charge, or temporarily in charge, and they asked him where the records were, okay? And he said, oh, we only keep records for 6 months. So Jon Stewart said, every American keeps financial records for 7 years because that's what we were told, because the IRS is always calling you in to audit you, never for the year that just passed, but for like 5 years prior. And here they're telling us that they can't prove they don't have the proof to show because they only have records for the last 6 months.
Yeah, that's the joke. I didn't see the joke, and I like Jon Stewart, but the point he's making probably is that they were a bunch of liars. On one of the national talk shows, there were a bunch of people in the private sector who worked in IT. And not only did they work in the private sector, but a few of them worked in the governmental sector as well. And all of them said that everything that's being done via computer in the government has a backup. They cannot lose the record. So this thing about Lois Lerner, who all of a sudden, her 2 years' worth of emails and her computer crash at just about the same time is nothing more than a bold-faced lie, because there's a redundancy that goes on in every government agency. So in case one computer does crash, it automatically has a backup. So this nonsense about, well, the computer crashed and we lost all the emails, give me a break. And Congress is letting them get away with it. All they got to do is bring forward just anybody in IT who worked in the government, and they'll tell you every government agency by law, at least some of them by law, have to have a mirrored system, a redundancy, a backup.
Well, this was supposedly this woman's own personal, I think, computer. This was her laptop, I think.
Well, why would she be doing government work on her own personal computer?
Who the hell knows?
If that was true, that's what I would ask. Yeah.
And even so, even if that's the case, she still sent out emails to people who receive them. So the people who receive them, that's on their backup system.
Of course. Or
and hey, listen, we're always told, or at least if you watch enough police shows, okay, they always ask for the person's computer because they go into the hard drive and they say, be careful what you say on your computer as far as emails or IMs, because there's a way to bring them up, okay, so that somebody can read this stuff. So in essence, nothing is safe. Whatever you say is out there, and they just have to be able to just bring them up. It's buried somewhere, and I'm sure there's somebody who would be able to bring them to the surface.
Well, that computer was probably trashed and crushed, because a lot of people, what they do when these computers are done with, they take a hammer to the hard drive. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because a lot of people think that when they get a new computer and they transfer information, that their old computer is now safe, and it's not.
No, not at all.
Not by a long shot.
Now, even if you wipe it out, you have to mechanically destroy the disks.
Exactly.
It's a free-roam personal computer. Yeah.
Yeah. Take that old sledgehammer.
Well, you'll excuse me. I am going to go make some coffee. By the way, my name is Marc, and the other gentleman here is Felix. We never caught your name.
We don't take last names, only first.
That's all right, because I don't give last names.
No, what'd you say your name was?
Okay, Joe.
Joe.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break, but you can continue with Felix. I just want to put up some coffee. Be right back.
All right. So let's see. Let's talk about the departments we should get rid of. First one, as I say, is the IRS, because we could just levy a second of a VAT tax that's a lot more efficient, and we don't need as much taxes anyway once we get rid of the IRS, because they spend a lot of money for nothing.
Well, I say get rid of just about everything. I think the American people, because then people ask me, well, then what about regulation? What about making sure that whatever the corporations make, that they're not going to try to commit fraud or do something wrong with the food that they create, stuff like that? And I say, look, we've got consumers' union reports, we have watchdogs. All you've got to do to really protect yourself is take a look at the publications, which would be published in the private sector. You find out which particular product, service, food is good or bad, and you act accordingly. Now, if something happens to you, then people will say, "Well, then you need the government to intervene." I say, "Well, all you got to do, really, all you got to do is sue the people, sue a corporation for whatever they've done to you, and after a few lawsuits, corporations will get the message." Because as your friend was talking about in the 70s, $18,000 was a lot of money.
Yep.
You could really live well for $18,000, no matter where in the United States in the 70s.
Sure.
But right now, you can't. You guys are from New York, so I would imagine you can't live in anything less than about $40,000 in New York.
40,000. Do you know how much rent is here? No way. You can't live in New York, New York City, the boroughs, Long Island. Within 75, 100 miles of New York City, a 2-bedroom apartment is probably $1,500 or more, and that's expensive as hell.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
So, and the standard of living varies from state to state.
Yeah, of course.
And so does the cost of living.
Yeah, well, of course, living in New York, I guess California is probably really the worst.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And it doesn't match the quality of life because the quality of life sucks. I don't want to say where my friend is.
What do you mean by that?
The quality of life in New York isn't that great. You're always stuck in traffic. You've got problems getting anywhere you want to go. Everything's expensive. There's more pollution in the air. It's just...
I would imagine that one of the biggest problems you have in New York is all the immigrants that are there.
There's a lot of immigrants.
People don't speak English, from what I understand.
Well, it's all over the country now. What do you hear when you call the telephone company? In English, press 1, Spanish, press 2. I don't know if you have that by you, but that's everywhere around here. Any utility you call, anybody you call, it's always English 1, Spanish 2. Do you have that by you also?
It's more of a courtesy than anything else. Since it's a huge bell company, then you're going to have it. Yeah. But I'm talking about living with the immigrants. I wouldn't want to live in New York or any large metropolitan city.
Yeah,
especially along the border.
That's just part of living in New York City. But I don't. Where I live, there are no immigrants per se. Illegal. There are no illegals around here. Matter of fact, most of the immigrants you see here are work in the factories, which are like 25, 30 blocks away, and you see them walking to the train station or riding their bikes. That's how you know when that's what you know when you see an immigrant. You see him running the bike or walking, because around here nobody walks. Where I am, we're out in the island, Long Island, and I don't think anybody walks.
In Montana, they ride their horse.
He said in Montana they ride their horses. Well, what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
I like horses. But that's the problem in New York. So, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be here. I would have moved out a long time ago.
No, where would you go?
Where would I go? Probably south, a little southwest, not too far. Maybe the Carolinas.
Would you pick a large town or a small town?
Small. I think I'd have more fun in a small town. I don't need a large town. I don't do anything in New York.
Yeah, there's a lot of people from the Northeast, Philadelphia, Jersey. Once they get older, they like to have They like to commune with nature more than with smog.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it's not even that. What do I do in New York? I don't do anything. I don't go look. I haven't gone by the Empire State Building in 40 years, probably, since I was a kid. And what do I do here? I don't go to the movies that much. There's movies anywhere. I don't go to Broadway
why not
show.
Florida?
Hmm?
Are you gonna retire to Florida?
Am I going to retire to Florida? That I would say no.
No.
Nah. Well, you're going to retire to Florida?
Well, Florida has no state income tax, so I
know.
thought maybe because you're talking about, perhaps, well, maybe not perhaps moving in reality, but I mean, in terms of thinking about where would you go if you were to move, I would have thought Florida would have been nice.
Florida is good. Well,
I would go to Florida at the drop of a hat, but I don't know. My wife's a scuba diver, and where she wants to live, I can't afford to live. So, I don't know where we're going to go. Besides, right now we're still in New York anyway, so I love New York. I really do. I wish I had the ambition to go into the city more. There's nothing like walking around the city, especially during holiday time. Okay, Christmas and New Year's in New York City is really something to see.
Yeah, I've been there during the Christmas time and New Year's, and it is a sight to see. But I as a tourist, I've been to what's it called, Times Square.
Yeah.
And even though it's pretty good in terms of brick and mortar and engineering, I wouldn't want to live in New York.
When were you here last?
A few years ago.
Oh, okay. So you've been here since they cleaned up Times Square.
Well, you know what it is. I don't know what your financial situation is, and I'm not asking, but it's so expensive to live in Manhattan. Okay, a simple efficiency, which is a one-bedroom, okay, costs about $2,500 at least to rent. The view is terrific, depending upon how high up you are and everything. But I've always said New York is great, but I wouldn't want to raise kids in the city. But Felix has a friend whose son. They live in Manhattan, and
he loves it.
They love it.
Yeah, but
I will say one thing: kids who are raised in the city. Now, when I say the city, I'm also talking about the 5 boroughs: Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx, and they have city smarts that a lot of the kids out here in the suburbs don't have. If you were to drop some of these kids off in the middle of Manhattan, they would be at a loss. They don't know what to do. They wouldn't know where to go, what to do. Now, I guess kids of a certain age, like 21 or so, yeah, they know where all the clubs are. But if you take a kid as a teenager, and when I was a teenager growing up living in Brooklyn, we used to take the train into the city and go to the museum or the planetarium or just walk around Greenwich Village, and it was great. It was terrific. I think that's what a lot of the kids who live in the suburbs are lacking.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mark. You said you love living in the city. When was the last time you were in the city?
Before I married Ellen, I dated a woman who lived in the city, and I was over there quite a bit.
I know.
And the thing is, you learn to do a lot of walking when you're in the city because you just can't find a parking spot. So I'd go into the city, I'd park my car, and wherever we wanted to go, we either took a bus or we walked. Or we started out walking, and if a bus happened to come along, we would jump on. Otherwise, we would just continue walking. And there's always something to see. It's truly the city that never sleeps. If you get hungry at 3 in the morning, you could find some place to go and eat. whether
White Castle.
whether it's other than White Castle, okay? And I find there's nothing wrong with White Castle, truthfully. But as far as junk food goes, but if you know, the first time.
Well, I've been to New York and I've been to Vegas, and I'd rather be in New York because I don't think in Vegas anybody would ever die from an overdose of sincerity. But in New York, people are kind of like in your face. I just couldn't find anybody who spoke English in New York.
Well, depending where you are, you're right. It's tough. But anyway, my point was to Mark. He was saying that he loves New York.
I do.
And he finds the best place to live for you. But you don't go to the city anymore.
Not anymore. You're right. I wish I did.
You know what, though? Like I said, people who are transplanted New Yorkers or other people who come from the Northeast, once they're in an area where there's plenty of trees, first they have to get used to the oxygen level. But after that, they really like the communities.
I know. When my brother lives in Virginia, and I remember years back, I went there, and everybody's telling me good morning.
I have a joke for you about. Well, it's not even a joke; it's a true story.
It's just very. I wasn't used to that. Why are they saying good morning? They don't know me.
When we were up, when I had the family up in the Berkshires, which is like between, you probably know where it is. It's between Massachusetts, New York, and I'm not sure. Was it not Vermont?
Connecticut? No.
Well, it's toward upstate.
Vermont.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful area.
Maine.
Okay. Well, that's a little too far, but after dinner you would take a walk, like a lot of people did, and I would smile and say hello, and my sons would ask me, "Do you know them?" And I said, "No, but it's the right thing to do." And when you're outside of New York, see, that's why New York gets a bad rap. Because of what I'm just going to say now. When you're outside of New York, people smile and say hello. It's like if you live in an apartment building in Manhattan and you say good morning or hello to a neighbor, it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, everybody, they more or less keep to themselves. But I still stand by what I said before, that if you find yourself in trouble, okay, a New Yorker will come to help you.
Yeah, but you find it any place. I found when I was there that there was this palpable atmosphere of some sort of constriction. People didn't really. They were trying to actually take more of an effort to be in their own space and not look at, talk to, or communicate with somebody. Unless, of course, you went to a club, I guess. But I mean. And out in the streets, on the subways, buses, even cab drivers, annoying.
Well, cab drivers are always in your face. They find out you're from out of town. Where are you from? What do you do? Why are you in New York? And sometimes all you want is just a quiet ride to wherever you're going.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, it's a great tourist place. I wouldn't mind going back again just to spend a week there. But in order to live there, I think I'd have to adjust my my psyche.
Now, you have to adjust a lot to live in New York. I mean, even I live in Nassau County, which we both live in, which is right outside New York City proper, which is the 5 boroughs. And even moving to the 5 boroughs is a culture shock for somebody like the people like us who are living here. They can't handle it. There's a lot of people. My wife would never move in. There's no parking. People don't have driveways. A lot of high rises.
About the same way in the Northeast, in New Jersey or Philadelphia, aren't they all about the same?
Well, if you lived in Philadelphia, the city itself, it's like living in New York, okay? But I mean, if you live in a suburb, other than your driveway, all right, people are very territorial. they think that the space in front of their house is for their cars or a visitor's car. And the bottom, because my wife gets upset when somebody parks in front of the house, because my son is a cop and he works the midnight tour, so when he comes home, the spot is usually available. She said, I wonder who parked in front. I said, Ellen, I said, you can't stop somebody from parking in front of the house. We don't own the street, And my son never complains, believe me. But, in the suburbs, people become very territorial about their space.
It's silly.
Yeah, but you can't park in front of somebody's driveway, in front of somebody's house.
No. You can't block somebody.
No, we're talking about the public streets. It's for public parking, and that's what they're made for.
But I don't blame your wife, because let's say I don't know if you live in a cul-de-sac or if you live in a regular community, but if you're living in a community where there's about 10 houses on the block, and if each house has a car, then each house has enough space for their own particular car, plus they must have a garage, so there shouldn't be any reason for somebody to park in front of somebody else's house. Yes, it's not against the law, you don't own the streets, but I don't blame your wife for being annoyed over that.
Well, the difference is not everybody has a driveway, and in New York, a lot of people have 3-4 cars, which is not unusual.
I remember the lady I dated before I married my wife lived in Manhattan, and I used to travel from one of the boroughs into Manhattan, to spend time with her. And at one time, it took me more time looking for a place to park when I got into the city than actually driving into the city. Okay? Because there was just no place to park. And I wound up parking something like 8 blocks away. Now, if you're out in the suburbs and you park 8 blocks away from where you want to be, that's terrible. Most of the time you find something right there. But in Manhattan, that's not out of the ordinary, And then you have alternate side parking, when it used to be so funny because in the morning, the men or the women would have their robes on, and by 7 o'clock you had to move your car. So they move from one side of the street to the other. Then they go upstairs and they have their coffee and shower and put their suit on and go to work.
The other thing that's you have to get used to, I go to Manhattan with my wife because she goes to a certain doctor in the city. And for 3 hours, it costs $30 to park by the hospital.
Yeah, I was about to ask what the rates were. Around Times Square, it's about $10, $12 an hour. So.
Yeah.
It was a good. Every time I go in there, she spends about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and it's $28 to $30 every time.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm going to let you go.
I appreciate you calling.
No, we're so glad that you called. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we enjoyed the conversation.
What I'd like to do is another time, if you get a chance, talk more politics with you.
That would be good. I was just thinking as I'm leaving now about how, again, the topic about friendship. I remember being on a show about maybe a year ago, and the host and his panel were talking about who can you really trust, and I was talking about relationships. See, my bailiwick is talking about politics and relationships, and I was talking about how you really can't trust the person that you're dating. I think more women can trust men rather than the other way around. And he started talking about trust in general, and it started getting into an interesting type of topic, a very generalized type of topic. But here, your topic is about the same thing. But basically, if you lend somebody money, why aren't they paying you back? They always think that your money is now their money, and it's a sad state of affairs when that's how you discover who your friends are.
Oh, my situation was vice versa. I borrowed some money, I paid him off with a hefty interest, and then he felt I should still pay more.
More interest?
What's that?
More interest?
No, more than what the payments were. When I was done with his payments, he said I still owed him money. So I told him, get somebody from the outside, your friend, audit the books and see what happens. And
it was a business loan, huh? Yeah.
it wasn't a business loan, it was a personal loan. But anyway, it could be a business loan, doesn't matter. But when finally this woman audited it, she told him that I overpaid on the loan,
Yeah.
which I knew. So he kicked her out.
Yeah, kill the messenger. Yeah.
That's
Exactly, and he still won't talk to me. Doesn't believe it. He doesn't understand.
Yeah, I know. It's really
But,
something.
Joe,
All
thank
right,
you.
guys, well, let's
Thank
go
you
back
for
to
your
the show.
time. We
All right,
appreciate
nice
it.
talking to you. Have a good night.
Have a good
Take care
evening.
now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Joe from Montana. Okay, I hope you enjoyed listening to our little conversation. And again, you heard Joe. He was just randomly thumbing through the dial, and he read our topic, thought it might be interesting. He called up.
And he was caller number. He was guest 6424.
Is that who he was?
Yeah, because he just logged off and he signed out.
Okay, so he was the okay. That's great. He started out in the blog. He listened. He decided he wanted to say something, so he called up.
That's really great.
That's the best way, really. If you don't mind talking, we would love to have you call us up.
Yep.
I think this was one of the most interesting broadcasts that we've had, because usually it's Felix and I and Dan and occasionally Dr. Don, or occasionally one of my friends would call in. But here we had somebody all the way from Montana, 2 hour time difference, and he graced us, and I really mean this, not in a bad way, he graced us with his time and his presence. And we had a great conversation. So if you think that you have something to add or you want to say something, believe me, feel free. Listen on the blog, call us up. You know, it's a very simple show. I don't think we're looking to embarrass anybody. You know,
and we hope nobody embarrasses us.
Exactly. So
It's a very open forum. We speak
That's right.
about almost anything within reason.
in the future, you know, please call us up. It's too bad that Dan left us earlier.
I guess he wasn't getting his word in.
He wasn't able to get a word in edgewise, you know, but it's not like somebody owns the floor and
Yeah.
they're the ones doing the talking.
That's true. I'm gonna call him back.
And Dan was never shy about, you know, breaking in or continuing talking, you know. So, I mean, certainly, you know, this is one of the friendliest shows that you're going to find on Blog Talk Radio or Spreaker or any place, really. But Dan only has a half hour.
That's because we don't know any better. Yeah, he's probably sleeping already.
Well, you know, Joe was on for the better part of an hour.
Yeah, he was.
Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
You left us.
You left us. I figured you were getting tired of he was hogging all the air time.
I'm not on the air now, am I?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Of course.
I mean,
Oh.
we just finished telling our audience
No, I
that
just.
we just finished
No,
telling.
everything's okay. I just.
We, like I say, we just
you
finished
just-
telling.
You guys just went way off topic.
Yeah.
Well,
You
we
went
started.
You went through way too many other topics.
Well, you know, it's like you, Dan. We started talking about friendships and owing money and don't loan money, and that's what originally got Joe interested. And then he started talking a little politics. That's like you. You call up and then you talk about Obamacare. Okay, so I mean, I've always said, that the airways are open to whatever question our caller wants to talk about.
Dan, personally, I think you have a love-hate relationship with Obamacare. You hate the idea, but you love the benefits you're getting.
No, it's not that why I just hung up, because the topics were just, guy went off on some. I'm glad you got another call, and it's great. But he went off on so many different things, from politics to the government, anti-government, China.
But Felix and I felt right at home. It was almost like listening to somebody that we talk to all the time.
Felt like I was talking to you almost.
Well, I looked at these guys hurt. I was like, the guy went off.
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah.
He's a nice guy, but I just...
That's okay.
It's hard to have a 4 or 5 way talk with somebody.
It is, you're right.
And you don't know. It's very hard to do that.
No, it is. You're absolutely right.
Maybe next time you should just say, hey, I've got a call calling. Can you call back, or I'll put him in hold or something?
Well,
you couldn't get a word in.
Well, you know what happens?
He touched upon so many topics, I couldn't even say a word. That's why this next one went, I hung up.
It's not like you're really calling into one of these professional talk show hosts, and he says, well, we have to go now.
Yeah,
there's another caller,
I know. I understand. I'm not married. I just hung up because I was like, wow, this guy's on.
I know why you hung up. That's why I called you back. I understood.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm not mad. I wanted to put my 2 cents in when the guy was talking. I didn't want to disrupt him, and I just didn't. I didn't know every topic he brought up. I don't know how long he kept talking to you guys, but I'm just happy. I'm happy for you guys to get a caller. It's so hard to.
He spoke to us for the better part of an hour or so. I think from about 9:30. You called early. You called at about 9:20. At about 9:30, he called up. Okay. And the 3 of us were on for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then we noticed that you were gone, and he hung up just about 10:30.
No, it's only 10:30 now.
All right, so 10:25 or so. But he was almost on for about an hour.
Yeah, he was.
And we spoke about a lot of different things. We spoke about a smaller government. We spoke about... the national debt, again, who do you trust?
I don't know when you realized I was gone. I just.
I realized the second you left. I knew, but I didn't. I wasn't going to call you back when he was on because it would have been. It wasn't a good idea.
No, I'm not mad at you guys at all. I'm just letting you call her. When you have. You have to understand my end of it, like you're saying. I already explained it. When you have multiple callers like that, I can't get a chance to chime in. He just was on. Not that it couldn't be rude and abrupt, but I like what he was talking about. But he just changed the topic again and again and again. And you just don't. Before you think about what he said, I'm like, I want to chime about debt. I want to chime about this, but he just kept going on and on and on.
You're part of the family, Dan. You're like a third regular.
Well, don't feel like I'm mad at all. It's just a weird situation.
We don't know.
Like that's the first time on a show or a caller called in like that, and just went off on a great topic she was talking about. It's like, wait a minute, I thought we were our friends. And he goes off on the debt and China owns the United States and
but we all know that.
Areas and like. So that's why I hung up. I was like, wait, this guy's just going off on I don't seem like a nice guy. I mean, not that. That's all right. Something that I was not uncomfortable with. It was just weird because I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Your father probably would have enjoyed talking to him because your father's lived in a few different places and he'd be able to compare New York to some of the more quieter areas across the country.
My father probably would have too. I mean, enjoyed it. I just was just taken aback that I'm used to talking to you guys and not having
anybody interrupt.
So It was just weird because I couldn't. It's just hard also too because I'm happy that you guys got another caller. It's just that it's hard to talk all at the same time. You keep those weird awkward moments on the phone. You keep those weird awkward moments like who's going to talk next or who.
Yeah, that's true. I understand. It's kind of hard to. You don't know when you can just break in. It's hard.
Right. You don't know they could. That's why I just hung up. I'm not mad. I still love you guys. I just that's what's going on. But at one point, I realized, Mark, it was like, who's talking next? It's like, go ahead. You say, I'm sorry, interrupt you. Go ahead. You go next.
Listen.
If we all sit down in front of each other, you can have a nice conversation and work it out. But when you're on a cell phone, and you interrupted somebody, and you don't know who's talking next.
I just wanted to tell you that Felix found a great Hyundai in Newsday, in the car section, and he wants to know if he wants
a 1999 Hyundai.
Yeah, no, that's a true story, though. A true story.
No, I believe you.
I believe you.
Especially you, man.
But Felix was asking, but you didn't hear him when you were talking about it. Didn't you have to have the registration renewed every year? And I mean, you probably didn't have to have it inspected because once you take it out of New York, every state is different. But when this person, when this person registered the car, wherever she went,
she could register it. She wasn't the owner.
That's what I'm saying. So
she might. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe she get back to New York every year or whatever and register. I mean, have it inspected done there. Who knows? But every state's different. I don't know. She maybe just got registered. I mean, inspected in Ohio. I have no idea. I haven't spoken to her in 15 years.
Yeah, but you didn't.
Over 15 years.
But what happened when you had to renew your registration?
Oh, well, I did. I was in trouble if I didn't.
So you kept renewing everything?
I still call it over my name. I had to register the car. Pay the extra, whatever, $20.
Well, because then the Motor Vehicle Bureau would come after him or something, and then he might have to face legal action.
Yeah,
she would too, for that matter.
Oh, yeah,
the thing is,
it just goes back to that whole friend thing. I just couldn't believe what I did for her, and she was just a nice worker and a nice person. I heard she was on drugs. I didn't know that at the time. She had her mood swings, but I thought that was just a woman being a woman with mood swings. But,
I don't know, Dan.
Yeah,
you seem like such a nice guy and a trusting guy. I don't know why these things always happen to you.
Oh.
Yeah, like Felix told me once. Well, I had a lot of luck in my life, but it seems to be these days I'm worse than no luck. No luck at all these days.
If you are having luck, it's only bad luck.
In
only bad luck.
In Jewish, there's an expression called Rahmanis. Rahmanis means to have pity on someone. So somewhere along the way, somebody should have shown you a little Rahmanis. Okay, feel sorry for your situation. Hey
Dan, there's a new lotto out, $1,000 a day.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see that yet?
They pay $1,000 a day?
Yeah.
For life.
For life.
Oh, a scratch off?
Yeah,
No, not a scratch off. It's a new. It's twice a week.
The last person who won was 98 years old.
I hate that. Everyone hates that when that happens.
Yes, I think just
starting. People win lotto. I'm not jealous. I love my losing lotto ticket, and I hear some young couple, whatever, won it. But yeah, I hate when that 89-year-old person wins, or the guy in Atlantic City not that long ago. Well, maybe.
Hey Dan, you know what would be terrible? If somebody wins and they have a massive coronary, and they take their picture, they show them with the check, and then they drop dead.
Yeah, I know. It's all gone.
Or they die before they have a chance to cash in the check.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, that would.
I love this one story to tell you. The in Atlantic City. I hate when still talk about lottery here. When I know a brain surgeon Atlantic City won the jackpot. It was like $1 million something. What the hell do you need the money for? You know?
Yeah.
And the lottery was never supposed to advertise back in probably your time frame. They said it was never advertised for. Meanwhile, every day you hear about, like I said, new lottery tickets.
That's that's like somebody. It's like Donald Trump or Michael Bloomberg. If they win the lottery, like they really need it.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, but we gotta get that scratch. It's not a scratch off, Dan. It's a twice a week. I gotta find out. I have no idea how much it costs.
I think it's Tuesday and Thursday. I'm not sure, but yes.
It's just regular picky numbers like lottery.
Numbers. Exactly.
And and then if you win it, you get $1,000 a day.
A day for life.
I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah.
I gotta play that one.
Yeah, right away. You know who gets it, right? The youngest kid in the family.
Yeah, Uncle Sam.
Youngest kid in the family.
Yeah, the guy doesn't get it.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that's taxable. Oh my.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's $365,000 a year, so it probably puts you in like a 40% tax bracket.
They're not going to mail you $1,000 a day. They must just give you a lump sum when you actually, if you actually win, you go down there. Okay, how old are you?
Well,
78 years old.
No, I don't think they give you lump sum.
Yeah, you have to be at least 18.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lump sum in this kind of a deal.
I don't know, but what do you do? Now you check every day?
No, once a month, maybe.
They give you whatever it is, $30,000 for the day. I mean,
they give you.
They've been taxed that before they give it to you anyway.
They give you $30,000 a month. You can live in that comfortably.
Yeah, of course you can. But no, I'm saying they take the taxes out anyway before they mail you a check.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, listen. $10 a month, $10,000 a month.
Half of that.
Well, I'm sure about $12,000 goes to taxes, but you could live on $28,000. You can live on $18,000.
Well,
$10,000.
Wait a minute, Mark. Doesn't that money go to you? You're a school teacher. I thought the money would go to school.
Hey, listen. The bottom line, the original lottery was supposed to. I don't even know how much goes for education. I haven't seen it. If that was the case, then why is there always a hassle every time the teachers negotiate a contract? They go 2, 3, 4 years without a contract. Why do you think they just signed an 8-year contract? Because they haven't been working. They've been working without one for 4 years. So really, it's a 4-year contract. You know.
Yeah, I hear you. But I don't know. They always advertise that how a lot of money.
It goes for education. I'd like to see it.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Does it go in your pocket?
Well,
a teacher's pocket. I mean, I don't know where it goes.
Even if it went,
the school field,
Dan, even if it went for school repairs or building schools, they haven't built new schools in I don't know how long, because the bottom line is the population in New York, the student population, has been dropping, annually. In fact, they're closing schools more than they're building new schools. The city schools that they close, they wind up turning over to charter schools, and the charter school pays the city rent for the building, But I mean, Brooklyn Tech was built like 85 years ago. I haven't been in that school and I don't know how long, but the desks were antiquated long before I even got there. It's a great school, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it was in dire need of repair back then.
Yeah,
Anyway, what do you say, Felix?
I
must wrap it up.
Not matching. I was just the weird.
Yeah.
The guy sounded nice to call her on the phone. I just said this one.
Hey, listen.
We were talking.
Oh, that's all right. But you promised us one or two callers. You know, one of your friends was going to call up or something. Whatever happened?
Oh, they listen.
Well,
They
sure
listen. In fact, the friend just texted me, did I go on the air
You know what?
tonight? And I said, yeah,
Tell-
I did.
Tell
So
your
she's
friend.
listening to it probably right now, as you and I are talking.
Well, tell your friend.
So, you know,
Listen. Tell your friend to do what Joe did. Tell him to sign into the blog, okay, and listen. And if they get up enough courage, they can call up and talk, or else they can type their question, and we'll be more than happy. That's what we did. Remember? Were you on last Monday?
Flycatch?
Yeah, well, yeah, you were on when Flycatch was on. You know, I mean, he was typing his
Yeah.
questions, and we were doing the best that we could to.
The Flycatch was a lot more radical than this guy,
Well, no, this guy
Joe.
was, I felt, I don't know, a little bit more educated, a little bit more worldly. Okay. Flycatch had some
yeah,
figures, but the
I just-
bottom line is he could get those. You know, he could have Googled any of that. You know.
Yeah.
yeah, no, like, I'm not mad at you guys. It's just weird. It's just trying to talk, and he just went on and on and on, and I just went.
No, listen, I know. I
On
understand.
my phone. Yeah, like that boy.
Well, you know, if that's the case, if you have a friend, who's listening, so ask her what she thought of the show. You know, impress her with your expertise.
Yeah, no, I don't know if she's doing something, but I don't know. She said,
Well, you know, there's not going to be a Friday show.
There's not?
Well, it's the 4th of July.
So?
No one's going to listen.
It
Come
doesn't,
on.
they don't listen on the day of the show. It doesn't matter.
Not the point.
If you don't want to have one, that's fine.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we can.
I see no reason why. It makes no difference. We have 2 people listen live, and then we have 500 people listen on the blog later. You know, what's the difference?
What the hell are you smoking? 500 people listening on the blog.
All right, 400. Uh-oh.
Dan got disconnected. Well, I think it's a good time to sign off then, because I don't expect that he's going to call back.
Nah, I don't. I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't.
I agree. It's almost time to sign off, folks. So it looks like Felix is looking for a song to leave you with. So why don't you surprise us, Felix?
All right, I'm going to surprise you. All right, let me see. Okay. Well, okay, we're going to say good night now.
Too bad we don't have this song, Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here comes. This is our song for the night. And
I will say good night and goodbye.
So will I, and goodbye. And when the song ends, the show ends.
Exactly.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. There's no song. All right, let's hear this one. Maybe this one will work. Yeah, wait a second. What's going on here? Let's go see if Old Faithful works. Nope. No, nothing's working. None of our sound effects working. I wonder if we would just cut off the show and I didn't realize it. Let me see. Yeah, oh yeah, we were timed out. We're not online anymore. And we heard that, yep. Yeah. They're not short changes. They just got cut off for some reason. But we're still on Spreaker, so everybody in Spreaker, have a good night. Thank you for listening. And as always, sing yourselves a song, ladies and gentlemen. Or if you really wanted, I could put one in for you to listen. But Marc says, Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Have a good night. Until next time, good night.